So next up, I'd like to welcome Umer Ehsan from News UK to the stage to talk to us about Centers of Excellence. All right, welcome, Umer. Thanks.
Hello, everyone. You can hear me all right, yeah? Okay, good. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you. Thank you, Ian, for filming me. I appreciate that. Just so you know, I had a glass of sparkling water before I got up here, so if I make involuntary sounds or smells, please don't judge me, all right? So I work for News UK. I lead the CMS and publishing teams, so that's all the editorial tools for The Times, The Sun, and the other kind of brands that work across News UK. I'm going to talk to you about, what slide am I on? Oh, that's right, okay. I'm going to talk to you about raising the bar and building a global center of excellence for WordPress. So we've talked a few times previously about a project we delivered last year to move the Times and Sunday Times onto a new WordPress CMS. And when we've talked about that, we've covered the sort of technical and editorial challenges quite a lot. So today, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the people and capability challenges. So a little bit more on the engineering side. Talk about how we started, what we learned, how that got better, and where we go next. Do we have any football fans, by the way? Can you put your hands up? Oh, shit, there's like literally 4. Right. I'm going to lean on you to understand the jokes that sit behind these sketches that I've done, all of this effort for naught. Right, so I am drawing a parallel between the post-Ferguson era of Manchester United and News UK's transition from print to digital. I will explain all of these references as I go along. Thank you. Right, okay. So, the story starts with a brand that was steeped in history and success in the print world, thanks to an era of formidable autocratic leadership. Do you see the parallel? We wanted to transition the Times and Sunday Times to a digital-first model and really leverage the opportunity within the digital space for our brands. And to do that, we had to shift the newsroom with great engineering, and we wanted to use WordPress to do that. So how did we start? Well, the first things first, I took over the program and I had a brand new leadership team, the Glazers. So here's my leadership team. You can see some of them today. Olia, Joel there, Jack didn't turn up. We had to restructure our program at the same time because there was a whole business alignment change or whatever else. So it was very disruptive. And we had to do this while delivering success on the pitch, which was the new Times WordPress CMS. And just as the Glazers knew very little about running a high-performing football team, we knew very little about running a high-performing WordPress engineering team. You see where I'm going with this? Do you know the next one? Who's that? Oh, Mourinho, thank you. Right, there you go. Right, so we wanted the least disruptive disruption possible. So we tried to stay as much as possible with the people we had and tried to put them in the right places. So we ran a skills audit, we looked at the programming skills that people had, and we tried to put them with the services that we thought they could best own and best manage for us. So that was our first thing. And our WordPress engineering team, I'll do the tee up later actually, but our WordPress engineering team was predominantly made up of React engineers who had dabbled in PHP, but didn't really know WordPress very well, or PHP engineers who also didn't know WordPress very well. But our starting assumption was, it's like WordPress, right? How hard can it be? And so whilst they were talented, what we started to learn very quickly was that we were pushing square pegs into round holes. So we brought in global superstars, Jose Mourinho, Jason, I can see you there. Ian, I can see you there. So Big Byte, we brought Big Byte in to help us with this challenge, being that they're global superstars in the WordPress space, and to help us bring in the talent we needed to make the project a success. And this is what we learned probably after about 6 months. We learned that the skills audit that we did was too much of a rudimentary exercise. We assumed skills equals productivity, and that wasn't true. We kind of realized that it didn't factor in firstly, obviously, any WordPress experience, but importantly, the interest and passion that those engineers had for leaning into WordPress as a technology to begin with. And so the kind of assumption that thinking that anyone with the right programming skills could do it was incorrect. So what we learned was a passion for WordPress is critical. Even if you haven't worked with it before, the excitement and kind of joy that comes from working with it is really, really important. We also learned that the team is as fast as its lowest common denominators. So what we saw very quickly was our non-native WordPress engineers, there was a chasm of quality in difference between them and the big byte folk who are helping us. And as a consequence, it slowed down some of the best of our people because often they had to help the slowest. So as a consequence, the whole team slowed down, and it didn't give a great deal of confidence about ownership of the platform beyond the tenure of Big Byte with us. And there was a difference between doing things the React way and the Gutenberg way. And again, so JS engineers who were coming in kind of had assumptions about how to solve certain problems that were already solved problems in the Gutenberg space. And so having somebody with that WordPress experience was really, really valuable. Here's some quotes. So Johnny's not here today. Johnny WordPress Harris, some of you may know. So here's a lovely quote from him. The key about building WordPress functionality that lasts is building code that works with WordPress rather than against it. And I think that's something we learned very quickly is we were kind of doing the against it bit often. We were trying to fight WordPress. And the other quote from Jack, who is our head of engineering, and I think this is a great statement of intent, is we don't want to have a lower standard for WordPress than the standard for all of our other technologies. We have really high standards across the board for our other programming languages and our other services in News UK Tech. And it was really important to us that we didn't sort of minimize where we wanted to be with WordPress. So, well, that one's pretty obvious. I sort of like, maybe 6 months in, 9 months in, Jason will tell me if I'm wrong, I would say like Big Byte really galvanized us to help raise our standards. They helped us with our recruitment processes, helped us move from just generic skills audits to actually moving to testing WordPress core, API, Gutenberg, and it yielded results very, very quickly. We brought in about 3 native WordPress engineers with a lot of skill who really helped raise the bar very, very quickly. And I think the thing that was clear was that whenever they were faced with a technical challenge, it was more like muscle memory when they had to solve the problem. They'd done this before or they'd seen it before, and that made a massive difference. Ten Hag, yeah, good band, well done. So a bit of context, we had an immovable deadline for delivery of that project, which meant we had a bias for speed through the course of it. So the consequence was an acceptance that we would deliver first and pay back technical debt later. I'll come back to that soon. But as a consequence, we weren't set up for the future. We were doing limited standardization. We were mostly manually testing. We found it was less common in general in WordPress to have significant automated testing across the stack. So this was something that was at odds with the rest of our department in a way. And it was also challenging to find WordPress engineers with genuine TDD experience as well. But we delivered the project successfully. Well done. We did it on time. So, analogy, we'd won an important trophy, but we knew the system was still broken because subsequent change was still painful, which is why Ten Hag got sacked. Right. So, on to the next bit. So, do you know who these are? No, it's a bit harder. It's all Dave Brailsford and Jason Wilcox and, yeah, all right, fine. Anyway, so once this was delivered, we said goodbye to Big Byte, thank you very much. And we kind of then, now that speed was no longer the bias, our focus was on building a team, a culture, and a CMS that would be fit for the next 10 years. That was the mission. And we shifted from doing things quickly to trying to do things right. And our efforts to raise the bar have focused predominantly on 2 areas. How do I scroll down in the speaker notes? That's not obvious. But standards and talent. I'm just going to riff here because I can't read the rest of it. Oh, there you go. Yeah, thank you. So Mohan, who's not here today, but he's a principal engineer in our Times team. He built our News UK WordPress coding standards. I'm not going to go through them in extensive detail. I think these slides are going to be shared. There's links in the speaker notes. It's all open source stuff, so you can have a look at it. It's all good. But basically, these form the basis of our News UK GitHub plugin template now. So it's the foundation for every plugin we create. And out of the box, you get unit testing, local development, integration testing for free. It makes it a lot easier from a developer point of view to get up and running. So where it used to take days, debugging pipelines and whatever else, like now you can get up and running with a new PLC in minutes, which is a massive change. These standards, we didn't create anything proprietary. Everything was open source. We pulled it from different repositories and well-known kind of like standards. And there were three kind of main areas. Can I score? Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. There were three kind of main areas. One was plugin remediation to improve the developer experience, improve standardization, remove cognitive load. I don't need to install this. I don't need to delete that. I don't need to do whatever. And time wasted for engineers kind of minimized massively. Automated test coverage. So the test framework as standard for Gutenberg is Playwright. So we adopted Playwright, even though we use Cypress across the rest of our state. We adopted Playwright as our end-to-end framework so that we're consistent with core. We get a lot for free. And we started rewriting all of our tests in Playwright as well. And I think we're, I don't know, like maybe 40, 50% of the way through that journey, something like that. He'll tell me if I'm wrong. And then the other thing, we started to use TypeScript everywhere. Because again, TypeScript is an RFC standard for us in News UK Tech. It isn't super common in Gutenberg, certainly not extensively, but it was valuable for us because it improved productivity, helped us identify bugs earlier, and again, ultimately save time. So that was standards. We did a lot there. Talent, so our head of engineering, Jack, introduced what he calls his VITAL framework, which is versatility, initiative, tech ability, and leadership. And so the decisions about who we brought in were no longer predicated just on engineering skills, but on communication, collaboration, leadership, being a well-rounded person. How are they going to contribute to our overall culture and help us raise our standards? And then we obviously bedded that into our interview and assessment process as well. So those are the things we did. And the payoff had really big dividends. So if you kind of think that we started to do this around maybe January, February of this year. And what we've kind of found over the last 9-10 months is that we're delivering more quickly, more frequently, with less errors. And we've engaged even non-WordPress engineers to be excited about the technology because all of a sudden it's very accessible to them. They can play around with it in minutes and it doesn't feel alien. So it's improved onboarding speed. On average, it now takes less than a week for a brand new developer to get up and running and shipping code and shipping value. And most of that waiting time is actually like waiting for access to other things outside of our teams. So kind of like actually for us, it's not very long at all. Existing engineers can get up and running in minutes, as I said, and even non-WordPress engineers are kind of playing around. On quality of code, we went from about sort of less than 5% of our code having test coverage, automated test coverage across our code, to now around about 50% of our code in 9 months, which is, again, yielded huge benefits. And for the plugins that are most used and most developed, it's actually upwards of 80% test coverage. So, you know, we've kind of prioritized the areas that we tend to change the most. And this has massively increased our confidence in the code and our ability to make incremental changes. And then finally, talent density. So we've hired 5 or 6 more very talented WordPress engineers across permanent and contract roles. And we're building capability partnerships with different agencies so that they know what to look out on our behalf as well, because we always want more great people. And also we've run many Gutenberg game days, so kind of like hackathons with Gutenberg, to encourage people who haven't used WordPress before to come and play around. So they'll pair with WordPress engineers and we'll solve business problems. And off the back of those business problems they solve, we actually can start landing initiatives that, you know, allow us to pair teams together, particularly as we've been running headless environments. So here's some recent quotes. I've got a minute left, but I can overrun, right? That was a yes. Senior engineer from for Jasper, he just joined a couple of months ago. Yeah, developer experience is often treated as an afterthought. It's refreshing to see it prioritized here. Mario, who's been with us for over a year, we often had to roll back or push hot fixes. This week we deployed 5 times to production with no rollbacks or hot fixes. This is the kind of message we want. This is, for us, a measure of success now about how good the quality of our code is and how confident our developers feel building for us. Garnacho, Holland, and Menu. So let's talk about what the future holds. Talent management is one big thing. We have some really great people now. We want to hold on to them. And the way we hold on to them is by giving them ever more complex and valuable problems to solve. So that's one thing we want to do. We have a challenge. We want engineers and our technology teams in the office, but WordPress naturally is a fairly dispersed community. Reconciling that challenge is difficult, but we try and, we're trying to be flexible. I think we have to bend to the ecosystem more than it has to bend to us, because we want great people. And we want to build more talent pipelines. So we're starting academies, we're doing training for non-WordPress engineers. In fact, we've got one of our apprentices here. Shana, do you want to put your hands up? Say hello, yeah, there you go. Used to be a professional chef, now he's a WordPress engineer. That's amazing, right? Partnerships. So we're working with our stakeholders to solve problems outside of just content management. WordPress is now an enterprise technology for us. It's the de facto starting point for thinking about how we want to solve bigger problems, not just the CMS problems, which is really great. We share our best practices with our partners across News Corp, so that they and the other business units in News Corp can also improve. So, a rising tide lifts all boats and all of that. And we're working closely with various agencies. So we work closely with X-Team, with Big Byte, as I mentioned before, with Ali as well. We're doing great work across a number of fronts, and we want to maintain the health of those relationships too. And then finally, community. So we're here talking today because we like the WordPress community, and we want to maintain a strong presence and connection throughout. We want to share our learnings. We want to align ourselves more and more to core. And I think a big part of that is making more WordPress core contributions. So we have core contributors in our team, but as a company, we've yet to make core contributions meaningfully. And I think that's the next jump for us. The other thing we've started is WordPress guilds in our organization to get the people who are WordPress core evangelists to evangelize the ones who are not making core contributions so that everyone does a bit more. And I think by building a strong connection with the WordPress community, we think we can attract even greater talent and raise the bar even further. I'm last two slides. So it's not enough. We've tasted success by winning some domestic cups, and now we want to dominate the league. As you know, Ten Hag got sacked, even though he won the FA Cup, and now we have a new manager. So we're striving to raise the bar of quality so we can showcase what WordPress offers as an enterprise platform, and so that we become a global center of excellence for WordPress, which means bringing even more talent, constantly improving the environment for them to work in, and solving ever more valuable problems for our stakeholders. And there's just some final quotes from, again, more engineers in our team. Developer experience is great and only getting better since I joined. I've never worked in a company that was so focused so much on tests. That's it. I should have mentioned, by the way, I'm a Man United fan. Like, I don't know if that was obvious. He is as well, obviously. Did we both grow up in East London, yeah? Yeah. Okay, that's me. Thank you very much.